children. I'm back here to continue the grammar class that we did a few days back. You remember the topic? We had begun learning voice, isn't it? So before I go ahead with, before I progress in this topic, I would like to do a quick recapitulation of what we did in our last class. So we did voice, isn't it? We did voice, that was the topic, and we touched upon voice change. We touched upon voice change, isn't it? We touched upon voice change. But before that, we did some. We did a quick exercise on the different types of verbs, in particular the regular and irregular verbs. So you remember why we had to do this regular and irregular verb, because it is very pertinent to the grammar topic at hand in terms of structure of the voice. So I think you remember that. Let us do a quick recap of our last class. So I will not go into the types of verbs because it is not really necessary for the purpose of this lesson. But again, let us do a quick recap about regular and irregular verbs for those who might have missed the last class, and even for those who did not miss, let us do a quick recap. So for the structure of the voice, you already know that voice is the structure of the verb which indicates whether the doer of the action is going to be given prominence, or whether the receiver of the action is going to be given prominence in the sentence, isn't it? So for that, we do need, for the passive voice structure, which you already know is the be verb plus past participle form, we need to be very clear about the third form of the verb, or the past participle form of the verb. So for keeping that in mind, we had done a little exercise, a quite quick recapitulation about regular and irregular verbs. So what are regular verbs? You remember, regular verbs are verbs whose simple past tense and past participle, simple past and past participle, are formed by adding ed, id, or d, isn't it? So, and one thing to note here is that the simple past and past participle of regular verbs, they are usually similar. They are same. Okay. So what are irregular verbs? Irregular verbs, again, doing a quick recap, irregular verbs are verbs which are not regular verbs in the sense that their simple past tense and their third form, or the past participle form, is not formed by adding d, ed, or ied. So how are these formed? There are different sets of irregular verbs. So let us do a quick recap. Some irregular verbs are formed by adding, by changing the vowel letter of the word, okay, of the verb. For example, drink, the vowel letter is going to be changed. We do not write D-R-I-N-K-E-D. What we do is we change the vowel letter, make it drank. And the past participle, again, we change the vowel letter, it is drunk. So here, the base form of the verb, the simple past tense, and the past participle, they are all different. Then let us look at the next set of irregular verbs. Think, thought, taught, isn't it? Then teach, taught, taught. This is another irregular form where the simple past tense and past participle, they are the same. Then the third set of irregular verbs, you have the simple past, the base form, the past, simple past, and past participle, they are all the same. Then we look at another set. This is a very quick revision. This is another set, and here you will again find that the base form and the past participle of the third form are the same, but the simple past tense form is different. So this is another set: choose, chose, chosen. And then you have another type of irregular verb where the base form, the base form and the past participle, they are same, but the simple past tense form is different. So these are basically the regular and irregular verbs that you have to take note of, be very thorough with, to make sure that you never get the structure of your passive voice wrong. So moving on, you do remember that we had done a comparison of sentences in active voice and sentence in passive voice. So you will note in these sentences that the word meaning, the meaning of the sentences, they are the same. তোমালোকে মনত আছে চাগে যে যোৱাবাৰ আমি কৰিছিলো ৰেগুলাৰ এণ্ড ইৰেগুলাৰ ভাৰ্ব কি হেতু কৰিছিলো, হেতু এই কাৰণে কৰিছিলো যে তোমালোকৰ প্যাসিভ ভয়েসৰ যেটো স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ আছে, যেটো গঠন আছে, তাত আমাৰ থাৰ্ড ফৰ্মটো শুদ্ধকে আমি জানিব লাগে। সো ৰেগুলাৰ ইৰেগুলাৰ ভাৰ্ব জানিলে তেতিয়া তাৰ আমি থাৰ্ড ফৰ্মবোৰ অকমান কোনটো কেনেকুৱা হয় হেতু তমান লক্ষ্য ৰাখি আমি শুদ্ধকে স্ট্ৰাকচাৰটো লিখিব পাৰো। সেই কাৰণে আমি হেতু আগতে কৰিলো আৰু এটা কুইক ৰিভিজন আমি কৰি লওঁ, আৰু হেতু হৈছে যে আমি যোৱাবাৰ মন কৰিছিলো যে এক্টিভ ভয়েস আৰু প্যাসিভ ভয়েসৰ যিবোৰ বাক্য থাকে, এক্টিভ আৰু প্যাসিভৰ যিবোৰ বাক্য থাকে, সেই বাক্যবিলাক তোমালোকে চাবা ইয়াৰ অৰ্থবোৰ একে থাকে। The meaning of the sentences of the active and passive voices, they are the same. What is different is that, and the time factor is also the same, the tense is also the same, and the tense is same in the passive voice, that is indicated by the be verb in the passive voice structure. Hetu tumalke note korisila kali joabar. Aru what is different is the position of the subject and object is different. The position of the subject and object is different. The subject in the active voice moves to the object position in the passive voice, and the object in the passive voice, active voice moves to the subject position in the active voice. So eto ami korisilu last time. And then we'll do a quick recap of what is a voice. So we now know that voice is basically the structure or form of the verb. Jeneke tense is the structure or form of the verb which indicates the time of action. Similarly, voice is also the structure of the verb. But what does voice indicate? It indicates whether the person or thing denoted by the subject is the doer of the action, or the person or thing denoted by the subject has something done to it. That means whether prominence is given to the doer of the action or prominence is given to the receiver of the action, that is indicated by the structure of the verb. So that is what is called voice. Then we had come to voice change. What we need for our exam purposes is how to change the voice of a sentence. How to change a voice of a sentence from active voice to passive voice to active voice. So now we come to today's topic, and that is voice change of different types of sentences. Okay, we are going to do today the voice change of different kinds of sentences, and we are going to begin with the voice change of assertive sentences. We are going to begin with the voice change of, you know that there are different kinds of sentences. There's the assertive sentence. What is the assertive sentence? The assertive sentence is a sentence which states something, states an opinion, states a fact, okay, and so on and so forth, and it is a sentence which ends with a full stop, isn't it? So let us take the example that is given in this slide. Okay, so what do you see? The sentence is, the peon opened the gate. This is an assertive sentence. The peon opened the gate is an assertive sentence, and here the peon is the doer of the action. The peon is the doer of the action, and the action itself is opened. The action is open, and the receiver of the action is the gate, isn't it? So the peon is the subject, the verb is opened, the action is opened, and the object or the receiver of the action is the gate. Okay. Now, if you want to change it, you already know how to do it, but let us assume that you've forgotten, and let us revise it. So you change the position of the receiver of the action here, and you place it in the position of the subject. So the object, the receiver of the action now is transferred to the subject position. That means in the statement, the speaker or the writer, what is he or she doing? He or she is interested in giving prominence to the receiver of the action rather than the doer of the action. That is when we use the verb in passive voice, and for that we first give importance to the receiver of the action. Now, when you want to give importance to someone, what do? Supposing you have a function at home and you want to, or in your school, and you invite a very important person, a VIP. Do you let the VIP sit in the back rows or in the front row? You make special place for him or her in the front row. So similarly, if you want to give importance or prominence while speaking or writing to the receiver of the action, or you do not know who the receiver of the action is, then we usually use the verb in the passive voice. And for that, what do? We write or we speak the receiver, we use the receiver of the action in the subject position. And then the structure of the verb that we use, that is the passive voice. And what is that structure? That structure is be verb plus past participle, which I'm writing in short as PP. Okay. So, and then we shift, and then after that we need a preposition. We need a preposition to establish the link between the object in this sentence and the rest of the sentence. And generally the preposition that is used is by, but sometimes we have to also use the preposition to, or sometimes, just a minute, sometimes we have to use the preposition to. The preposition to is also sometimes used, and sometimes the preposition at is also used. The preposition at is also used. For example, supposing the verb here is known. So you cannot say known by, you have to say known to. And supposing the verb here is surprised. Surprised. So you cannot write surprised by or surprised to. So then you write surprised at, amazed at. Okay. So generally the verb that is, the preposition that is used is by. So তোমালোকে বুজি পাইছা সাকে assertive sentence or যেতিয়া আমি voice change কৰো তেতিয়া আমি কি কৰো, আমি যেটো receiver of the action আছে active voice or sentence টোত সেই receiver of the actionক আমি subject position লৈ লৈ আহো, তাৰ মানে আমি গুৰুত্ব দিও, যেনেকে VIP ক আমি আগশাৰীত বহাও তেনেকে আমি receiver of the actionক একদম সন্মুখত আমি বাক্যটোৰ বহাও, আৰু তাৰ পিছত আমি যেটো voice এতিয়া use কৰো, যেহেতু আমি ইয়াতে কৰ্তা মানে কাৰ্য কৰোতা নহয়, so আমি তেতিয়া verbৰ structureটো আমি activeত লিখিব নোৱাৰো, তেতিয়া আমি passivত লিখো, আৰু passivৰ structureটো হৈছে be verb plus past participle. আৰু তোমালোকে সাকে লক্ষ্য কৰিছা যে activeৰ verbটো যেটো tenseত আছে, এতিয়া ইয়াতে activeৰ verbটো কোনটো tenseত আছে, activeৰ verbটো simple past tenseত আছে, সেইকাৰণে আমি passivত যেটো be verb ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিম নহয়, এই be verbটো আমি কিহত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিম, আমি হেতু simple past tenseত use কৰিব লাগিব. So be verbৰ simple past tenseত কি আছে, দুটা আছে, এটা আছে was আৰু এটা হৈছে were. এতিয়া আমি কোনটো use কৰিম, was use কৰিম নে were use কৰিম? Obviously ইয়াতে the gate হৈছে singular third person singular number, গতিকে আমি were use কৰিব নোৱাৰো, were আমি pluralৰ লগত use কৰো, গতিকে আমি was use কৰিব লাগিব. আৰু তাৰ পিছত এটো যেটো verb হেতু obviously past participle আহিব, যেটো আমি চাৰ্টত আমি কৰি ইতিমধ্যে regular irregular verbৰ হেখনত আমি গমে পাইছো কেনেকে past participle form কৰিব লাগে. আৰু তাৰ পিছত we need to use the preposition by, কাৰণ open door লগত by to যায়, and then we shift the doer of the action from the subject position in the active voice and we shift it to the passive and we shift it to the object position. So voice change আমি তেনেকে কৰিব লাগে I think it is clear let me just speak in English once more যে ইয়াতে কি হৈছে we have to change for voice change of assertive sentences and this is the basic rule we shift the doer of the action to the object position in the passive voice sentence and we have to shift the receiver of the action to the subject position in the passive, in the sentence where the verb is in the passive voice. And then the verb that is used is in the structure of be verb plus past participle, where the tense of the be verb has to be the same as the tense of the active voice. So here the tense of the active voice is simple past tense. So here the be verb is in simple past tense. And another thing we have to note is when we are going to use the be verb, we have to keep in mind the number and person of the subject. So it can like a clear hold. Let us now move to some examples. These are the examples that we had done earlier also, but these are all assertive sentences. So let us now, you can do it, let us now again write these here. So what are we going to do now? We are going to do this exercise. We are going to shift this receiver of the action here. So this becomes Savitri and this is loves. Loves is in simple present tense. So in simple present tense for the be verb we have is, am and are. We have is, am and are. So now here since Savitri is third person singular number, so we have to use is. We have to use is Savitri. And now we have to use the past participle or the third form of loves and that will be is loved. And then we are going to, we need a preposition, isn't it? So the preposition is by and we are going to shift the doer of the action, Sita. We're going to shift doer of the action here is loved by Sita. Let us do the next one. The mason is building a wall. So here the receiver of the action is the wall. The doer of the action is the mason, isn't it? And this is building is the verb in active voice. So let us shift the receiver of the action to subject position, a wall. Then this verb, this verb in active voice is in present continuous tense. So you're right, what you know, you've guessed what we have to do with the be verb now. Yes, we have to write the be verb in present continuous tense. Now how do we write the be verb in present continuous tense? You're correct, it is being. Is being. So we have written the be verb in present continuous tense and that way we have kept the time factor the same in both the sentences. And now we need the past participle of the main verb and this is built. So is it a regular verb or an irregular verb? Correct, it's an irregular verb because we are not forming the past participle of the third form by adding d, ed or id. We have not written builded, isn't it? We are using built. So this is a irregular verb. Okay, and then we have to now shift the doer of the action to the object position and sorry, before that we have to use the preposition by. So sometimes we use by, sometimes at or to, depending on the verb here, main verb, past participle form. And then the doer of the action is the mason. So similarly, you can do the other two. Please note down the sentences. The peon opened the gate. Please note it down. I hope you have your exercise books ready. The next one is he will finish the work tomorrow. And the next one is she has bought a car. So you do these at home by yourself. Now let us move to the next type of sentence. And this is this type of sentence that we are going to now do is interrogative. We'll now do voice change of interrogative sentences. And to do voice change of interrogative sentences, first let us just do a quick recap about auxiliary verbs. Okay, let us do a quick recap about auxiliary verbs. I think you know what are auxiliary verbs, isn't it? Auxiliary verb is a verb that is used to form tenses, voices, and moods of sentences. Auxiliary verbs are verbs which are used to form tenses. They're helping verbs. You already know there are 24 auxiliary verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, must, did, do, does, did, ought to, dare to, need to, etc. So of these auxiliary verbs, there are two primary types. There are two main types of auxiliary verbs. It can be divided into two main groups. One is the primary auxiliary verb and the other is the modal auxiliary verb. Okay, so what are the primary auxiliary verbs? The primary auxiliary verbs are the to be verb in their different forms, the to have verb, and the to do verb. So to be verb in present tense, we have am, is, are, and in past tense, we have was, were. Okay, then have verb in the present tense, we have and has, and in the past tense, we have had. And the to do verb in the present tense, we have do and does, and in the past tense, we have did. Okay, so these are the primary auxiliary verbs, and we have to know what are the primary auxiliary verbs because there are two types of interrogative sentences, as you already know. So some begin with primary auxiliaries and others begin with modal auxiliaries. And of course, there's another type which begins with WH words or question words. So we are going to briefly touch upon all of these. And then what are modal auxiliaries? Modal auxiliaries are 10 in number. They are can, could, shall, should, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, and ought. Okay. And what does a modal auxiliary do? A modal auxiliary is a word that is used with the main verb to indicate modality. That means it is used with the main verb to indicate whether something is possible, whether an ability is there. She can sing, for example. The main verb is sing. So can sing means the ability to sing is there. So that is how the modal auxiliary indicates the modality of the main verb. So it indicates ability, likelihood, advice, probability, then obligation or permission, and so on and so forth. So these are modal auxiliaries and these are primary auxiliaries. Some questions are formed beginning with auxiliaries, both primary and modal, and others are formed with the help of question words. So now we are first going to just look at some of the rules of changing interrogative sentences which begin with primary auxiliaries. Okay, primary auxiliaries. You look here. What do you see here? You see the primary auxiliary do, does, and did. So when you know what an interrogative sentence is? An interrogative sentence is a sentence which is used to ask a question. Okay, I forgot to speak in Assamese for the last class. I mean for the last slide. So just to do a quick, to do this in Assamese once more. Let me go back. So তোমালোকে জানা যে অক্সিলিয়াৰী ভাৰ্ব আমি ইউজ কৰো আমাৰ ভাৰ্বৰ টেন্স মুড আৰু ভইচ ফৰ্ম কৰিবলৈ আৰু অক্সিলিয়াৰী ভাৰ্ব তোমালোকে জানা 24টা আছে am is are was were will would can could etc আৰু তাহাঁতক অক্সিলিয়াৰী ভাৰ্বক দুভাগত ভগাব পাৰি এটা হৈছে প্ৰাইমাৰী অক্সিলিয়াৰী ভাৰ্ব এটা হৈছে মডেল অক্সিলিয়াৰী ভাৰ্ব এটা প্ৰাইমাৰী অক্সিলিয়াৰী ভাৰ্ব আছে এইকেইটা do be verb kita, have verb, do verb. So it am, is, are, was, were, have, has, had, এনেকুৱা আৰু modal auxiliary বোৰ হৈছে can, could, will, would, shall, should এইবিলাক আৰু আমাৰ interrogative যিবোৰ sentence হয় যিবোৰ প্ৰশ্নবোধক বাক্য আমি লিখো সেইবিলাক কেতিয়াবা primary auxiliary বা modal auxiliary আৰম্ভ হয় আৰু কেতিয়াবা হেৰিৰে আৰম্ভ হয় question wordৰে আৰম্ভ হয়. So now we are going to just have a look at the voice change of interrogative sentences which begin with primary auxiliaries. It's a primary auxiliary jodi interrogative sentence arambho hoy tetia ki koribo lage. What do we have to do? Ini prothomote ebar silent aso ami ketaman example work out korim. We will work out examples later. So have a look at this slide. What do you see? This is a question which begins with a primary auxiliary. Do you know him? যেতিয়া এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ primary auxiliary আৰম্ভ হয়, then you have to convert it into passive, you have to use either am, is, are, was, or were. So here the verb is in simple present tense. So obviously ekita amak nalage, we don't need was, were. So what do we need? We need either is, nahale, are, nahale, am. Now which will we use? That will depend on the subject, isn't it? So etia yate dekhisu yate hoise yate subject hoise you or yate object hoise him. Now to transform it into passive, tomaloke already jana, we have to shift the object to the subject position. We have to shift the object to the subject position. So etu do you, please forgive my handwriting, more board dot handwriting to enekwa ke ahe. Do you know him? So etu subject আৰু এটো হৈছে object, হয় না নহয়? এতিয়া আমি কি কৰিব লাগিব? এটো object to আমি এটা subject position হলে আনিব লাগিব, কিন্তু হেতু অনাৰ আগতে what do we have to do? We have to use a be verb, হয়নে? So what are we going to use? Either is, are, or am use কৰিব লাগিব. এটা যেটো he to আমি এটা এটো হৈছে object positionত আছে, গটিকে pronoun এটো হৈছে objective pronoun. এটা আমি subject positionত যেতিয়া himক আনিম, আমি him লিখিব নোৱাৰো, আমি কি লিখিব লাগিব? এটা him আমি লিখিব নোৱাৰো, এটা আমি কি লিখিব লাগিব? আমি ইয়াত himৰ এটো objective pronoun, গটিকে আর subjective form টো লিখিব লাগিব, আৰু himৰ subjective form হৈছে he. So আমি লিখিব লাগিব he, কিন্তু he এটা subject হৈ গল, কিন্তু তাৰ আগতে যেহেতু question কেতিয়াও verb question সদায় verb ৰে আৰম্ভ হয়, so আমি কি কৰিব লাগিব? ইয়াৰ আগতে আমি verb টো লিখিব লাগিব. এটা verb টো কোনটো লিখিম? ইয়াতে know টো হৈছে simple present tense. The know is in simple present tense, so we have to use either is, am, or are, which is be verb in simple present tense. Which is, what are we going to use? We are going to use that form which is suitable with the number and person of the subject. So what are we going to write here? Third person singular number, gotike is. So is he, then past participle is known. যেহেতু এটো known আছে, so we cannot sorry এটো ভুল আছে, is he known by you নহয়, এটো known to you. Is he known to you? Is he known to you? No লগত সাধাৰণতে আমি to use কৰো. So is he known to you? Okay, so আৰু এটা কৰি দিও. Let me do another example for your benefit. Look at the next one. Look at the next one. Did he write the letter? Did he write the letter? So eto ki koribo? Very quickly ami sam. Eto ako did he write the letter? So the letter ami yale anibo lagibo. So let me write it nicely. Try to write it nicely. Did he write the letter? Did he write the letter? Eto doer of the eto object, eto hoise subject. So ami ki korim? Eto yale anim, the letter agole anilo, the letter agole anilo, tar logot ete ami milabo lagibo verb, হয় না নহয়? তো কোনটো আহিব? Letter third person singular number, so ako is a sorry এবাৰ কিন্তু did আছে নহয়, ইয়াতে verb টো আছে did write. So verb to did write মানে the verb is in simple past tense, নহয় জানো? So এইকাৰণে আমি কি কৰিব লাগিব? ইয়াতে লিখিব লাগিব was the letter, তাৰপিছত ইয়াৰ past participle হৈছে written by him. Was the letter written by him? Try to, so let me try to write it neatly again. Did he write? Did he write the letter? Did he write the letter? Eneke ahibo, letter to yale ahibo, the letter. Okay, the letter. So now we have to, this verb is in simple past tense, so we have to write was the letter written by, he to hoise subjective pronoun. আগতে যেনেকে objective pronoun আসলে আমি subjective কৰিলো, he to him to he কৰিলো, এবাৰ he to আমি কি কৰিব লাগিব? Objective pronoun him, was the letter written by him. Okay, so enake bostutu similar, but you have to remember that you have to use these auxiliary verbs for this kind of a question. Now suppose the question is suppose the question begins with the be verb, another primary auxiliary. Suppose the question begins with be verb, so it is are you. You already understood how it is, how to do that, but it might help you. So are you cooking vegetables? Are you cooking vegetables? So yate ki koribo lagibo, are you cooking, etu hoise be verb, etu be primary be verb, to be verb ere arambho hoise question to. So what do we have to do now? Again we have to, this is in simple present tense, cooking, are cooking, the verb is are cooking, which is present continuous tense. So obviously we have to also use, we have to use is, am, are plus being, right? Because the be verb has to also be in present continuous tense. So now we have to shift the object here. So this becomes vegetables, write the object first, vegetables, and now we have to put the appropriate form of the be verb. So vegetables is plural, so we have to use, and this is in simple present tense, so we have to use are. So are the vegetables, okay? Then we have to also write being, are the vegetables. Great. So let me just do it. Are the vegetables being cooked? Being cooked by you. So what is done here? The object of the active voice sentence is being shifted to the subject position, and the subject, which is you, has been shifted to the object position. This is the preposition, and the verb is written on two sides of the subject in a question, in a sentence, you know. So are, we have to write the are in front of the subject, and the rest of the be verb, that is being, after the subject. So that is how you convert. So are you cooking vegetables? Are vegetables being cooked by you? So there is another example. What is this? Were you playing football? So here the verb is were playing. This is the object, this is the subject, okay? And so was football being played by you? So because this is in, we shift the object here, it becomes the subject, and the subject here becomes the object in this sentence. And since this verb is in past continuous tense, therefore what are you going to write? You're going to write the be verb here also in past continuous tense. You split it in two, so the be verb will be was being, so you have to write the was in front of the subject and being after the subject, because that is how, that is the sentence structure of interrogative sentences, which you already did in class 7, so I cannot repeat that here. Then supposing it is it begins with primary auxiliary have, has, had. So what do you have to do to get this example? I'm not going to do it in detail as I did earlier. Just remove this. So has he finished the work? Has he finished the work? This is the verb is has finished, isn't it? And the subject is he. And what is the object? The object is the work. So what do we do here to convert? We write, we shift the object to the subject position, and the verb is present in present perfect, isn't it? So the be verb also has to be in present perfect. What is the present perfect of the be verb? It is has been. It is has been, isn't it? So so you have to write has been here, and we have to split it up in two parts because we have to place the subject in between. So has the work been, then you have to write the past participle of the main verb. The main verb is finished. So has the work been finished? Then we need a preposition, okay, and by you. So this is how questions which begin with auxiliary verbs, they are changed. Okay, now very quickly we'll go to questions which begin with interrogative words. So what are question words or interrogative words? They are also known as WH verbs. So WH verbs, they are who, they begin with WH, or they have the WH letter in the spelling. So WH words are who, why, which, when. Okay, so what, okay, and how. How also has a WH letter. It has how, W towards the end, and it has H in the beginning. So what do we do here? For WH letters, it is the same as the interrogative voice change of interrogative sentences using auxiliary verbs. But the only difference is, before using the same rules as the interrogative voice change of interrogative sentences with auxiliary verbs, you have to place the WH word in front. You have to place the WH word in front. So jitu niyam ami primary auxiliary aru model auxiliary re arambho hua প্ৰশ্নৰ কাৰণে প্ৰশ্নবোধক বাক্যৰ কাৰণে আমি ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছিলো, সেই একে নিয়ম কিটা আমি এই WH ৱৰ্ডৰে আৰম্ভ হোৱা ইন্টাৰোগেটিভ সেন্টেন্স বিলাকৰ কাৰণেও আমি ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিব লাগিব, খালি এটাই ডিফাৰেন্স। এন্ড হোৱাট ইজ দ্য ডিফাৰেন্স? সেই ৰুলটো এপ্লাই কৰাৰ আগতে সেই সেন্টেন্সটোৰ আগত সেই যিটো কুৱেশ্যন ৱৰ্ড আছে সেই কুৱেশ্যন ৱৰ্ডটো লিখি ল'ব লাগিব। ওকে, আৰু any baki don't look at the first example, second example to solve. By whom, sorry, when did you bake the cake? So when did you bake the cake? Eta ekhinir pa ami yale jodi sao ami dekhim je eto ami jeto olop agote primary auxiliary jitu questions ami paisilu, did you buy a car, and tenekwai question ha jano, khali tar agote eta when ase. So if you look at this sentence, you will find that it is from here, if you just don't look at the word when, then if you look at the rest of the sentence, what do you see? It is the same as the interrogative sentences that we did with that began with primary auxiliaries. We did a few moments back. The only difference is that there is a question word in front. And what is that question word? That question word is when. So what do we do for changing this kind of question? We simply place the question word in front of the passive voice also, and then we apply the same rules that were applied for the questions beginning with auxiliaries. Okay, so here, when did you bake the cake? When was the cake baked by you? Okay, then when did you make the dish? When was the dish made by you? The only difference is that when it begins with who, when the question begins with who, we have to place by whom in front. So instead of who, we have to use by whom. So by whom, and then the rest is the same. So who has written this book? By whom has this book been written? So eneke bostutu kora hoy. So that is interrogative sentences. So we can do a few questions on interrogative sentences. Okay, so let us now attempt a few questions with interrogative sentences. Does he speak? Does he speak English? So does he speak English? Eta ki hobo? Does he speak English? This is the object, this is the subject, the verb is does speak. So we are going to shift English here, isn't it? English, and this is in simple present tense, the verb is in simple present tense. So, and this is third person singular number, so it is English. Then the past participle of speak is spoken. Then we need a verb by, then by he becomes him. Is English spoken by him? Okay, so let me give you a few questions. I have to dictate them to you today. So you please, if you have your books ready, you can do this for your homework. The questions are, is Raghu playing basketball? Is Raghu playing basketball? This is one you have to do. Then another one is, has he bought a house? Has he bought a house? Then, can he make cane baskets? Can he make cane baskets? Okay, now let me give you some with question words. By whom? By whom was this jug broken? Okay, by whom was this jug broken? Number 5, who taught you? Who taught you English grammar? Who taught you English grammar? So you just attempt these questions, attempt the voice change of these questions at home. And we will not do interrogative sentence here because we don't have too much time. In our next class, we'll do a little more about voice change of interrogative sentences. In a little, we will retouch upon it once again, and then we will also do imperative sentences. But to do a quick recap of today's class, we touched upon what are regular and irregular verbs, because we need to know the structure of the we need to know the third form very nicely to be able to write the correct structure of the verb in passive voice. So we did a quick recap on the different kinds of regular and irregular verbs. So you please be very you take note of that. And then we again recapped that the sentences in active and passive voice, they have the same meaning and the time is not changed. That means the tense is not changed, and you have to remember that when you're changing the voice from active to passive or from passive to active. In the next class, we'll also do some activities for changing voice from passive to active. Today we focused on active to passive. And then but what is changed is that the structure the structure of the verb is changed. That means for the passive voice, what happens is the be verb is used along with the past participle. Okay, and the be verb indicates the tense. Okay, we did that, and then we touched upon again, we recapped what is voice, and then we did voice change of assertive sentences, which is something that everyone finds quite easy to do. All you need to do is change the bring the object of the sentence to the subject position, and you change it there. Then we did interrogative sentences. Before that, we familiarized ourselves with the modal auxiliaries and primary auxiliaries. Okay, so and then finally we did voice change of the different kinds of interrogative sentences. We'll touch upon this again in our next class. So I will stop here for today. Thank you. Have a good day.